Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to rig a DAS character and take it to Unreal Engine. We will first take the DAS character to Blender, rig it there, and then take that to Unreal Engine in a way that does not conflict with the Epic skeleton. Now this is very different from the DAS plugins that can transfer directly to Unreal Engine or directly to Blender. We're going to maintain the shape keys for the face during this transfer, but the shape keys for the body might be a little bit off because we will change the base pose. You might also need to customize the materials, but that is an editor side process. I'm going to click on N, go to the DAS to Blender panel, open the import settings and set the scale to be X100, and then I can click on import new Genesis figure and then just give this a moment. And there we have our character. If we look at the item properties for this character, you'll see that it is 172 meters tall. We just go over here, open up units and set the unit scale to be 0.01. This is needed for Unreal Engine. And it also sets our character's height to be more human scale at 1.72 meters. Now, before we do anything, we have to realize that this armature is not a simple skeleton, it's a full-fledged rig, meaning there are bones that deform the mesh, sure, but there are also other stuff and other constraints that prevent it from just moving in whichever direction we choose. We need to have a simple skeleton for this to work. So we're going to open up the armature section, go down to the Uefy extra tools, and there will be a tool here called remove rig. So this is just going to delete everything and leave us with a simple deformed skeleton. At this point, we can bring in the Unreal Engine mannequin. So I'm just going to do file, import FBX, go to the mannequin file. I don't want any animation in armature. We want automatic bone orientation. So import FBX, and then I'm just going to click on this large bone, do GY1 to move it back by one grid line, and then I can also go to the Uefy script panel and click on fix mannequin, which fixes an issue with the foot on this thing. If we go further up here to viewport display, we can put this in front, and let's go into edit mode and hide some of these large bones so we can see. I'm just going to hide that, hide this, and then hide that as well. Now you'll see in this spine we have a pelvis and then a spine 1, spine 2, and so on. So there are 4 bones here, 1 neck bone, 1 head bone. And in the fingers we have 1 hand bone, and the fingers are all attached to it directly. Similarly on the foot, we just have 1 foot bone, and the toes are controlled by 1 bone at the end, like so. So we need a similar structure in our character for this to work effectively. So I'm just going to hide the mannequin and let's examine this character and see what we have. So I'm just going to select this armature here, and then let's turn off shapes so we can see the bones a bit more clearly. Now if we go into edit mode, let's look at the pelvis area here. So you'll see there is something different going on immediately. So we've got we have a pelvis bone just like in the mannequin, but it is a child to this other bone called the hip. But that's okay because in this character, this hip bone doesn't actually do anything. It's more like a root, just like the root. There's a root in the mannequin, so we can pretty much ignore this and we can start counting our bone structure from the pelvis. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bones, just like there are in the mannequin, but then we have a 5th one that doesn't exist in the Epic skeleton. And moving further on, we have 1 neck bone, and when we have a 2nd neck bone that also doesn't exist in the mannequin. I'm going to go to object mode, shift select the mesh, and then from this drop down we can do weight paint. And from over here, I'm just going to turn off the shirt. So just we have a better view here, and I'm also going to open this drop down and set this to active. Now if we control click on any of these bones, it will show us the weight paint that is attached to that particular bone. So if you can see on this this bone that we want to be our final bone in the spine chain, its weight painting goes up to here. But then if we click on this bone, you'll see this area is controlled by the top bone. So we need to merge this weight paint into this bone and remove any influence that this thing has without damaging any of the weight paint on any of these other bones. So we have a tool in Uefy that can help us do this. We'll get to that later, but let's just examine a few other places we need this to happen. So for example, this neck bone needs to control the entire neck because that's the way it is in the mannequin and that's the way we want it to be. But this second neck bone also has a lot of influence going further up, so we need to merge these two. And similarly in the hands, you'll see there's a hand bone just like in the mannequin, but it controls only a small part of the hand. These other bones control the rest of the hand. And similarly, if we look at the foot, we have a lot of toe bones. Now this is supposed to be a game character. I don't really want any toes in here, so I'm just going to remove them. Okay, you can keep them if you want. You can add extra bones to the Metarig, and I have other tutorials where I can show you how to do that. You can check those out. But for this character, I'm going to remove all of these bones and have this weight paint transferred to this toe bone. And also, this bone controls the middle part of the foot, while this actual foot bone just controls only the heel. So we need to merge these two because there's only one foot bone in the mannequin. So I'm going to go into edit mode and, well, tab out of it. I want to select only the armature and then go into edit mode. And now if we look in the Uefy extra tools, there's a tool called here merge weight tools. So the way this works is I'm going to select the bone that I don't want. Okay, I want to remove this bone. Then I will shift select the bone that I want to keep. And then I can just click on merge weight paint. And this is going to just take care of it for me. And then now I can click on this bone, press X, and then just delete it. So similarly, I want to keep this neck bone and I want to remove this neck bone. So I'm just going to select the one that I want to remove first. Shift click on the one that I want to keep and then just merge weight paint. And now I can select this unwanted bone, press X, and then just delete it. So let's just have a look at what impact this had on the weight painting. So I have the armature selected, shift select the mesh, go into weight paint mode, select this bone, and you can see that the weight paint doesn't just end here, it goes all the way up there. And none of the other bones had their weight paint damaged in the process. So similarly, the neck now controls the entire neck, and that unwanted bone is just simply gone. So we go back to object mode, select the armature, again go back to edit mode, and now from over here I can select all of these bones that I don't want, and I'm going to make sure that the bone that I want to keep is the last one selected, and the last one selected is the active bone. You can see it has a different outline, right? Its color is different from the others. And then I will just click on merge weight paint, then I can shift click on it again to deselect it, and now I can just do X and then delete bones, and now I'm left with only the hand. And I can do the same thing over here, select this one, that one, that one, that one, select the hand, merge the weight paints, unselect the hand, and then just remove these extra bones. And I can do the same thing on the feet. I want to box select all of these bones, deselect this one, and then reselect it so it becomes the active bone, merge weight paint, and then deselect it again. Now I can do X and delete, so it gets rid of all of the individual toe bones. Similarly, I don't want to keep this bone, so I'm just going to select this first, select the foot bone second, merge the weight paint, and now I can get rid of the unwanted bone. Similarly, on the other side, the same thing can be repeated. We want to box select all of these bones, deselect this one, and then reselect it, merge the weight paint, deselect it again, and then just get rid of the toes. Same thing over here. We want to get rid of this one, so the foot second, merge weight paint, and then just remove it, like so. We're also going to simplify the facial rig on this character, but before we do that, I'm going to bring in a Metarig. So I'm just going to create a new collection. Let me just hide this for a minute. And then in object mode, we could do Shift A, armature, Uefy script, presets, and a DAZ simplified rig now. Let's look at the head on this rig. So let's go into edit mode, Alt A to deselect everything, and let's go into wireframe mode. Now you'll see there's this is the head bone, and inside this head bone, we have a face. And then we have 2 ear bones, 2 eyes, 1 jaw, and then further, if we go further in here, there's a tongue and bones for the top and bottom teeth. So this is a simplified structure that lets the character speak and be very expressive. So I'm going to use this instead of what is in the original. So let me just hide the Metarig, bring this in. And if we look over here, let's just go into object mode, select the armature, and then edit mode. You'll see this character has a lot of face bones. Now it is entirely possible to add additional bones to the meta rig, so you can take this entire rig as it is to Unreal, but it's not very helpful because they'll just be simple deformed bones. It's not an actual rig like you can get with Rigify. So we have a couple of options there. One, we can just take these bones as they are by adding additional bones to the meta rig. Second, we can use Rigify's face rig instead, and I have a video which I will link in the description and also show in the corner that you can use to create a bone-based face rig that you can use. But if you do that, it would be much more better if the head was a separate object from the body, because otherwise the total number of bones in the character just goes through the roof with this method. And the last thing that we can do, and what we will do in this tutorial, is to use a simplified meta rig that just gives us the maximum amount of facial expressions and the possibility to move and speak for the character without using a whole bunch of bones here. So in order to simplify this, we need to move the weight painting from these smaller bones onto some of these main bones so we can transfer it to our rig. Out of the two large bones visible over here, I'm going to select the one called lower face rig, and let me just shorten its length so we can differentiate it from the other bone called lower jaw. So I'm just going to select lower face rig, do Shift G, select its children, and that just selects every bone that controls the lower part of the face. And then I can deselect this bone, and I will select the lower jaw bone, which is the final bone that I want to control the face with, and I will do merge weight paint. So the weight paint will transfer from all of these smaller bones to just this one. And similarly, for the upper part of this character, I will select this bone here. It's called upper face rig. Let me just change its length so we can see it a little bit better. And I will do Shift G, select its children, and then I will just make sure that it is the active bone, and then merge weight paint. And that is all we need to do over here. I'm going to deselect everything, go up here, and let's enable names so we can see what the bones are all called. And then we could go to the Uefy script panel, click on refresh list, and I'm going to make sure that I select the character's armature from this drop down. And then from over here in select mapping, this is going to be empty, so I'm just going to click on this button to get some options. I'm going to select Dash Genesis and then just click on apply, and that'll update all themes in my character. Now we need to update the bone rolls on this character, so I'm just going to go back up here, enable axis, and then back in Uefy script panel. I'm going to click on magic rolls, which is going to try and guess what the rolls should be. We only care about the bones that exist in the Unreal mannequin that are not twist bones or IK bones. So we look at the pelvis here, you'll see that the red line, the x-axis, goes towards the back of the mesh, and this is what we want for all of the bones in the spine. So this one, that one, this is all correct. This is correct. X-axis is pointing towards back. Again, for the face, we don't care. We only care about the head bone because that's the one that exists in the mannequin. And you can see that its x-axis is in fact towards the back of the mesh. So we don't care about any of the other bones over here. Same for the shoulders, the clavicle, the upper arm, and the lower arm. That's all we really care about. These are correct. We care only about the left side, so we don't really care what's going on over there. Same for the legs. This is correct, and this is correct, and these are the only two bones we care about. For the foot, the x-axis needs to be in the same general direction as this line over here. And for the toes, the x-axis is going to be pointing straight up, so the script got most of this right. For the hand, the x-axis goes out from the bottom of the hand. Let's go to orthographic view. So you can see, let me just grab the hand bone. The x-axis is clearly pointing out from the palm. The same is true for all of the fingers. The x-axis is all correct, except for the thumb. For the thumb, it needs to be changed. So I'm just going to select all of these bones here, go to the bone roll tool, and it needs to point towards positive x, and I'm just going to roll the bone. So you'll see the x-axis now points out from the bottom of the thumb. So I'm just going to select all three of these bones, right click, symmetrize, and that'll fix the other side. Now we need to pose this character. I'm just going to turn off the axes because we don't need them anymore. Before we pose this character, I'm going to make a few additional changes to the bones just so we can get a better pose, and that results in a better retargeting later on in the engine. If you look at the hand bone in the mannequin, it is more like this in the mannequin. So we're just going to make it the same over here, and from the side it's also a bit like this, and you can always open up the mannequin for reference if you need to. So I'm just going to right click on this, symmetrize, and that'll update the other side as well. From the front, you see these bones over here, they're not quite aligned properly, and Rigify will work just slightly better if I can just move them a bit to the side like this. So I'm just going to press G and then double X to lock on the global X axis, and then I'm just going to drag them a bit like that, and then right click and symmetrize. And then for the shoulders, again in the mannequin, this shoulder, but let me just change this to global here and this to individual origins. So I'm just going to select this part, do G and lock it on the Z axis, take it up a little, and then from the top I can do G again, lock on the Y axis, and bring it forward a little bit. So this is what it's like in the mannequin, and then when we do the pose character, we'll get a better pose out of this. This is because we made these updates. So I'm just going to roll this again so there's no slant to any one side, and then right click, symmetrize, that'll fix the other side. I'm going to turn off names because we don't need them anymore, and then we'll deselect everything, go to object mode, and I'm going to bring back the mannequin. And in Uefy script panel, I'll do refresh list. I'll make sure that this value is the armature for the mannequin. This one is for the armature for the character. And then further down here, we can do pose character, and that should update our character's pose, and we don't need the mannequin anymore. Now we can improve the pose a little here by going to the side, and from the feet, I will box select these two bones so they're both selected, and then I could use R to rotate and then just straighten them out like that, then A to select everything, G to grab, Z to lock axis, and then bring everything onto the floor like that. And then from the front, I can select this bone, do R to rotate, lock on the Z axis, and then just straighten it out like that. We're trying to make the mesh look exactly or as much as possible as it is to the Unreal mannequin. So just straighten out the foot like that, and then we can do Control C to copy, Shift Control V to fix the other side. We can also update the pose on the fingers. So we could box select these bottom parts, so not these top parts, and then we can do Alt R to straighten them out. This is kind of optional, but it's helpful if you're going to be making animations using Rigify. If you're going to be mostly using marketplace animations, then you're probably fine without doing this, but Rigify works better with these straightened out fingers. So I'm just going to do Control C to copy, Shift Control V to update the other side. If we go into edit mode, you'll see that the rest pose is still what it used to be, but we want the rest pose to be like this. So what I'll do is I'll go to object mode, and I will select any of these meshes, any one of them will do. And then I will go down here into Uefy extra tools. There's a pose update tool, and just going to click here, and it's going to say, it's giving me an error. It says delete shape keys before using this operator. So what I'll do is I'll go further down here, and then I will select the armature in object mode, and I will do delete all shape keys. We will get them back later, at least for the face. Some of the other shape keys for the hands or places where we change the default rest pose may not work so well, but we're mostly interested in getting shape keys for the head right back so we can use them in facial expressions. So we'll get them back, so don't worry about this. Now if we go back up here, Again, I'll select any of these meshes, any one of them will do, and I'll do update rest pose. And now what this means is if I go from pose mode to edit mode, there is no change and the rest pose has been updated. Now after the rest pose has been updated, one last change we can make to one of these bones is to straighten out the toe bones a little so the Metarig comes in a little bit better. So I'm just going to grab this, take it up like that, and then I'm just going to straighten it so it's like so without changing where any of the axes are pointing. So then I could just right click on this, symmetrize, and it'll fix the other side. And now we can transfer this character to our final Rigify. In object mode, I'm going to find the Metarig. Let's bring this back, and then from up here, let's also put it in front so we can see. Then further down here in the Uefy script panel, I'm going to make sure that the Metarig is listed over here. And then further down, we don't need to fix it because this is a preset, it's already fixed. And then we can just do pose Metarig, and the arms and legs will be updated for us. And then we can edit it and update the spine if need be. Now in this case, the Metarig spine almost matches perfectly to where it needs to be, so it doesn't really need any updates. But one thing that probably is going to require an update is to move the eyes into the center of the actual eye over here. So I'm just going to select the character's armature and go into edit mode. Let's hide the Metarig for just a second here. And we want to select the base of this bone here. So I'm just going to try and select just this part. So it's UI on the left side. And then I will do Shift S cursor to select it. And then we can tab out of this, back to object mode, bring back the Metarig. And let's just hide this armature for a minute. And then we can edit the Metarig, and I will move this to this location over here, and then right click and symmetrize. Now in this case, the eyes are symmetrical, but your eyes in your character may not be, so you might need to repeat this process for both eyes, but I think it's fine over here. And all of the other bones also seem to be ideally located, so I don't really need to change anything. Your character may be of a different height or a different shape, so just update these joints and put them wherever you need them to be. The arms and the legs don't need to be updated, so you're really just looking at the spine and bones in the face for this. I'm going to go into solid mode, and I'll just quickly check if the heel bone is also correctly placed. So it's the correct width and it's also at the proper location. So I'm just going to go into object mode. I'm going to separate these meshes from the original armature. So I'll just select all of them by control clicking on each one, so they're all selected. Then from the Uefy extra tools, I can do extract mesh. So now they are all standalone objects, and I can control click on all of them to select them all. Then I can just drag them into this collection that contains the Metarig. And then now we don't need the original armature anymore. So I'm just going to hide that folder. Now we can select the Metarig, and from up here we could just do, well, I'm going to select the folder that contains the Metarig, and then I will select the Metarig, and now I can click on generate rig, and that'll just ensure that the generated rig is also in the same collection. Now we could again select all of these mesh objects by control clicking on each one, and I'm going to control click on the rig as the final object, so it is the active object. And now I can do control P and select armature deform, so that'll attach our meshes to this final rig. And now we can click on the rig, turn off the Metarig. Let's also put this in front, so I'll go up here, put this in front, and then further down in the Uefy script panel we could go to generated rig operators and click on build skeleton as the final step, and that should update our rig. At this point, the rig is basically working, and you can start animating with this. So let's just test a few of these controls. I'm going to try the mouth control. I'm going to press R to rotate, X to lock the axis, and you can see that this is working along with other controls in the face. Now we want to recover those shape keys for the face so our character can be more expressive. I'm going to re-enable the DAS collections, and then I will go to object mode, open DAS to Blender, go to the import settings and set this to X100, and then I will re-import the same figure that we've been working with again a second time. Once this completes, go back to over here and set the unit scale back to 0.01 because the import process will reset this. And now if we look over here, you'll see a different collection, DAS figure 1 with the newly imported character. Previously we were working with DAS figure 0. So I'm going to open this and I will find the mesh that has the body. Okay, so this is the body mesh. And then in our Rigify armature, I will control click on the same mesh again. So this is the, it'll be the active object. This is the last object to be selected. And then from over here in data properties in the Uefy script panel, or rather the extra tools, I will go down here and click on transfer shape keys. This is a slow process. It'll take a few minutes. So just give it some time to be done. Now, once that completes, I'm going to deselect everything and turn off this DAS folder again, and then let's just take a look at our character one more time. So I'm going to click on the mesh for the body, and then over here in the data properties, I can go up here and see that there's a lot of shape keys that are available, and I can click on them and you can see that they are in fact working. So we take these shape keys, and if you go into pose mode on the armature, I'm going to select the armature, go into pose mode, you'll see that it does work. You can mix and match these two different procedures, and the combined effect can give you really expressive characters. To export this character, I will go to object mode, select the mesh again, and I will disable these two buttons so none of the shape keys are applied. And then from over here, I will select all of these meshes by control clicking on each one, and I will control click on the armature last, and then I will go to File, Export FBX. I want only the selected objects, the ones that we selected over here. In scale, I can leave this as it is. In geometry, we cannot apply modifiers because we want to export the shape keys. If we leave this selected, shape keys won't be exported. Then in armature, we want only the deformed bones, and we don't want to add in leaf bones, and we're not dealing with animation right now. And we can just export this FBX. We can also export this character directly to the mannequin, the original mannequin in Unreal. To do that, we have to set Unreal Engine mannequin roles, but be sure to make a backup of your blend file before you do this, because once we click this blend file becomes useless for anything other than exporting. So I'm just going to click this here once, and now I can do the same thing again. File, Export, FBX, this time with the Unreal Engine mannequin roles, select different file name, and then the same thing again. We want only the selected objects. In geometry, we cannot apply the modifiers. In armature, we want only deformed bones, no leaf bones. And again, this blend file is not even capable of exporting animation, so just export this. In the Unreal editor, I will select the folder where I want to import this character, and then I will do import game assets, and then I will select the file that was exported from Blender, and then open this. And from the settings, I will leave the skeleton to none. It will just create a new one for me, and I'm going to click over here and then make sure that import morph targets is selected. This is off by default usually, and then I can just do import like so, and then give this a minute. Once that has finished, I can open up the DAS skeleton, and then in retarget manager, I will set this to be select humanoid. Then I will just simply close that. All of these options will already be correct. Then we can open show retargeting, translation retargeting, set everything to skeleton, set the root to animation, set the pelvis to animation scaled, and we can also set the IK bones to be animation. Now if we select the mesh, you'll see that the materials don't really transfer from Blender. So what we can do is back in, well, let's just close this. Now over here, I imported the same character from DAS using the DAS to Unreal Bridge. Now this of course comes in with the skeleton as it is in DAZ, and it doesn't contain any of our changes that we made in Blender, but it does bring in all of these materials that we can also use with our own character. So I can just open this, I can open that, and you can look at the last part of this material's name. It's called boxers. If I just search for boxers, you'll see that this material exists as it is imported from DAZ to Unreal Bridge. So I can just select this, and similarly I can just select all of the materials from over here and replace them with the ones that are actually working. Now once that's complete, the materials will be transferred to the character, and if we zoom in a little bit over here, you can see on this side we have all these shape keys that will be working correctly. Now there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. For example, like it says over here, these materials need more target support. So what's happening here is that these shape keys have different names from what the materials in DAZ expect them to be, but you can of course rename them in Blender if you need to, but you'll need to have to work this out yourself. But in any case, if you're doing your own programming, if you're doing your own animations, all of these shape keys are working and available. And of course the skeleton is also working, and all of the bones on the face and in the body are also working. So now let's retarget some of our animations onto this thing. In order to do that, we first have to go to the mannequin and select the mannequin skeleton. And I'm going to make sure that in Retarget Manager, the original mannequin is also set to humanoid, and then I can close this, close that, save everything. And then in animations, I'm going to select all of these animations, retarget, duplicate, and then set this with DAZ skeleton. Okay, it's not showing because we have to also open this up. And then in the skeleton, we have to click on apply to asset. And of course, we also need to make sure that this is set to humanoid. So that's fine. Again, close this, close that, save everything. Go back to the animations, select all of them, right click, asset actions, duplicate. Now if you select this, and then we can change where we want to put this. So I will make anims here, a new folder, and then retarget. So now if we go over here, these should be working. The pupils on this character aren't showing because the eye materials need to be set properly with the material domains, but that's mostly an editor side thing, so you'll need to work that out. But otherwise, everything that we expect from the rig is already working. Now, in order to import this directly to the Unreal mannequin skeleton, we can use this other file with the Unreal bone rolls, and then we can open this. And this time we're going to select the mannequin skeleton, so it'll be this one in game mannequin characters mesh. So I'm just going to select this over here, make sure morph targets are enabled, and then I can just do import and then give this a minute. Now once this completes, you'll see that there is no skeleton this time around. I'm just going to open the mesh, and I've already set all of these materials just like we did last time. And then in animation, we can see that we don't need to retarget anything. We just need to change the preview mesh to be our newly selected DAZ character. And you can see that without retargeting anything, it is already working. You do want to go to skeleton and make sure those same retargeting options are available over here as well in the same way. So, but otherwise, yeah, this will just work. So this is good if you want to use your characters with already existing third-party blueprints or something like that. But usually it makes importing new animations made in Blender a little bit more complicated. And I have a whole explanation on this in the in rigging the Unreal Engine mannequin skeleton video. You can check that out. But generally speaking, I just stick with this Blender-based character, which gives me better control over the whole process. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions, just drop a comment, and thank you for watching.